Exercise 2, Autodesk Inventor 2015. Today we're going to take a look at building a Revolve feature, which some people call like the lathe approach. But basically we're going to take a look at that. So you might want to open up the manual. Manuals available on vertani1.com, instructional-manuals, or just go to instruction manuals. Find Autodesk Inventor and click on that green bar. Should bring up the manual. You're going to want to go down to page 22. And there you can see our goal. At the very bottom there, we want to create that wheel that you see. There's some interesting features. This is mostly some advanced sketching, not really advanced, but it's a bit beyond the basics. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to do some mirroring. Also, we're going to talk about Revolve features. Revolve features, for example, could be used for any cylindrical object that you might make. The two ingredients, as you can see there, are a profile and a centerline / axis of revolution or edge. Basically, it will be used to revolve around. You'll see in that little box below there that we have the ability to have a profile and have the outer edge used of that profile for the axis of revolution. You never want to have the axis of revolution cross over into the profile, though that won't work. And nor do you really need to mirror things over. I have students who sometimes mirror things over because they're looking at it like it's going to eventually be the same on both sides. It's a waste of time. Don't need to do that. Okay, so let's take a look here. We're going to begin with a new part. Just select the standard I part, hit create. We are working in inches. My apologies, those of you who use metric. You could still use it if you like. It's just going to be a very small part. Okay. So from here, we're going to go ahead and click on Start 2D Sketch. And we'll just draw it on the XY plane, which really is like the front plane. Click on that edge of the XY plane, or you could select it from the little area right here, the XY. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, first of all, we're going to draw some center lines. Now you got to be really careful here when you're drawing center lines, because as you click on here, you have the ability to actually select center line or construction. Either one is okay. I'm going to go with construction here, and right at the origin, click and drag up a vertical construction line. And we'll make it, we'll go ahead and put in a value as I'm dragging up here. We'll put in at least 3 inches. And from there, just go ahead and hit escape. Let's go back to the line. Construction is still selected for us, so we could draw a horizontal one. So drag it across. And this one, we'll make this a good 3 inches as well. Then hit escape. Okay, you don't really have to put those dimensions in. I'm just doing it for scale purposes because that's around the size we want. It's a little bit bigger, in fact. Okay, so we're going to first draw 1/2 of the geometry. And you can see down here, let me get to that there. There we go. You can see the dimensions that we're going to add. We're going to create this geometry as such. And so we'll create 1/2 first. Take the line tool. Now here's where you have to remember to turn off construction. Number one problem with this lesson, with this software in particular, is that you have to turn off the construction button. So don't accidentally leave that on, because then everything's going to be construction geometry and you're not going to be able to extrude anything or revolve anything. So okay, once you have that, now we're just in the line tool. We're going to move over to the left a little bit. Like you see my X is like negative 0.3, 0.4-ish. That's fine. Click, drag up a vertical line. Now just get it approximately 1 inch, but don't type in a value because we're not going to actually dimension the length of that. Click, drag it across. Now this one we do want 90 degrees, but we want it to be 0.4 across. So you could type in 0.4 or add it later with the dimension tool. Now draw this little angled line here, almost 1 inch long, not quite. Avoid selecting the horizontal center line we drew. You want it just slightly above that. So like right about where mine is with a slight angle, like you'll see my angle is like 112, 113-ish, that's fine. Click. drag this across approximately an inch. It should be horizontal. Again, not typing in any values. We're going to add the values in a little bit. Drag this up about an inch or so, click, drag this across. Now this one you can add 0.25 in length, and then drag it straight down and connect it to the horizontal center line. Click, and now hit escape on your keyboard. Alright, so we have some of our geometry completed there. Let's go ahead and add some dimensions here. Go to the dimension tool, select this line on the far right. We're going to work our way from the inside of the wheel out. So click, select the horizontal center line, and just in here, click to drop it, and we'll make that 0.375. Okay, the next dimension we're going to add an angle dimension. Now for an angle dimension, never select the endpoints of an item. Only select the middle of the angled line. And then select this line right over here, right somewhere in the middle. Drag it between the two to drop the dimension. Click. And that needs to be 18. Okay, we're not going to put in any other dimensions. Actually, we could still put in some dimensions here. Let's go ahead and put in a dimension from actually this corner. Now I do want you to click on a corner, the point that shows up right in between that angled line there. And then select the center line and then drag it over here. Click to drop it, and I believe that's 1 inch. I'll just verify it though on the manual. And in this case it is, because it's just showing a diameter of 2 inches. We're just going with a radius basically of 1 inch, so we had to subtract that or divide by 2. Okay, one last one. We'll go ahead and click on this furthest extent of the line to the center line again, drag it up, and let's see what that's supposed to be. So that's 5 inches, so half of 5 is 2.5. Okay, for right now that's really good. What we can do is we're going to go ahead and mirror now. So we're going to learn a little bit about mirroring. Go ahead and select the mirror button up here. Now the select items is already selected for us, so we can just click and drag a fence to surround the geometry we want to copy. So just select that geometry. Now click on the mirror line button right there and select the horizontal center line, because that's what we want to mirror across. Don't accidentally select the vertical one or else it'll go on the other side. And then hit apply, and you should see what I have there. Okay. Now we could drag some of these dimensions out, kind of lay it out a little nicer. Let's finish it up now. Go back to the dimension tool up here, and let's dimension between the middle of this line to the middle of that one. And just over here to the left, it'll be 0.25. And I believe that's pretty much it. Let's just verify on the print that we're not missing anything. Yeah, we look good. All right. So now we're going to go ahead. You could hit Finish Sketch, or you could go right to 3D Model and go to Revolve. Okay. What you might need to do is sometimes you need to select the profile. If you didn't draw it clean, you might have to click in here or maybe click the top and bottom. I've seen that happen. You can hit this little arrow here and you'll see the options that we have. Now we just need to select the axis of revolution, and it should spin around that vertical center line. That's what I picked up on. And we want it to go 360 degrees all the way around, so full. Okay, notice you have angles you could put in if you didn't want it to be a full around. Hit OK. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put some fillets on. So let's find the fillet tool here. If you don't see the fillet tool, hit the little arrow underneath chamfer, whichever. Click on fillet, and we'll keep this at actually 0.1. And select this line here, or I should say this edge. Select those two edges. Select the underside edge here and this edge here. Hit apply. Go ahead and type in 0.375. Select this edge here, and if you rotate, remember Shift and the middle mouse button could rotate around, or you could use this little guy up here. Click. Oh, well, I guess we could have that one too. That's fine. Could drag this around, click on the little home button, get that little edge in there too. Hit OK. Let's go to the chamfer. Underneath fillet, there's a little arrow. Go to chamfer. and we'll keep it at 0.125. Sounds good. We'll go distance to angle. So we'll select this face and then this edge. And it's 0.125 by 45 degrees, which anytime you have something by 45 degrees, it usually comes out it's to the same equal distances. So we could have done distance to distance. All right. Rotate that around. Now we could mirror that to the other side since I neglected to do it. So we could do that. Why don't we do that? Select the chamfer from the feature tree or the actual surface of it there. Go to mirror. Okay. And I don't think I got it to select. Let's see. Did not like that. Hold on a second. What is that? Select set contains objects. Oh, guess it can't be mirrored. Never mind. All right, so if you need to put another one on, go to chamfer. Go ahead and it should remember our settings, face and edge. Hit the green check. All right. Go ahead and save that as E2. Okay, moving along here, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item in the book, which is the screw. Now we're not going to actually add the threads. You can add them, but as you get more advanced, you could tinker with that if you like. We're just going to try the basics here. Okay, as you can see, we have a just a bolt with the head in there, with the dome on it. Let's go ahead and build that. So let's go to new, standardized part, just double click on it, and let's get going. Again, we're going to use the Revolve feature for this. So we could go to start 2D sketch, select the XY plane again, and take the line tool and drag out a little line here. And here actually the bolt diameter is a rather large bolt. It's 1/2 inch diameter for the shaft. So if we go to 0.25 here across, we're getting half of that. Now bring this up vertically, and this is going to be 1.7 inches in length. And then this head of the bolt, don't use this dimension, just click to drop it in. And then this one I believe is 0.1 for the height. And now go ahead and hit escape. Okay, oh actually click on line again, and we could close it off at the top here with a 2-inch line. And now we should be able to use the arc tool. In this case, let's go with 3-point. Could go with center point. 3-point's pretty, oops, missed the edge there. Sloppy sketches can really throw you off. Okay, in this case, it is supposed to be 0.75, so we could type it in, but you'll see there's a little bit of a discrepancy because it kind of bows out a little bit. That's because it's not centered off of that. So theoretically, I'm going to hit escape. We don't want to go by the actual radius on the top of the bolt. I want to go with the height of the bolt. That's said 2 inches here. Okay, and what we do want to do though, so it is a smooth top, so it doesn't indent when we revolve this, is lock this point into this vertical line so that we could use a constraint. And so if we went to coincident constraint, we could select the point and the line, and then there it goes. Now if we had a dimension, you might notice you can, and in that case we have that, but the 0.75 again throws us off a little bit. I don't recommend putting that in because what we do have, oops, a second, I just wanted to delete that. Is we need to go ahead and put a diameter of the head. And so if you go to dimension, and actually in this case it'll be a radius, we'll select this line here, and it's supposed to be 1 inch. 1 inch across diameter, so it would make 0.5 radius. All right, and then that, if we try to dimension that, unfortunately it comes out a little bit shy. That's because the drawing I made actually has a section through where we put in that little slot for the screwdriver. Anyhow, that's good enough. Let's go ahead and go 3D Model, Revolve, and we could select the edge. We didn't need to draw in a center line necessarily, by the way. You can use the edge. It's only if it's offset, like the last exercise where we had an opening where it creates a void in the center, that you need to have a center line or some sort of axis to revolve around. In this case, it's all the same. Hit OK. All right, the next thing we're going to do is go to chamfer, and it's going to be 0.03. And we could keep it distance to distance because technically it'd be 45 degrees anyway. Okay, now let's go start a sketch, and we'll select the X, Y plane again. And we need to create a center line this time. So we click on there, click on the construction line. You could use center line, they both work. Hit escape, make sure you turn off construction. Don't forget to turn that one off or else it really throws you off. Also, be able to see through your part, you could go to view, enter the visual style, shaded with hidden edges. Then you can see through it a little bit better there. Okay, go back to 3D sketch, and we're going to go ahead and take the line tool, and you're going to draw a little line across like that. Dig into it. So essentially we're making the tool to cut that out. Then hit escape. And we're going to go ahead and mirror that across. So again, go to the mirror tool. Select is already selected for us. We just click and drag a fence to surround what we want to mirror. Click on the mirror line, and that vertical center line we created should go ahead and could apply that then. Now go back to dimension and dimension these 2 points for it to go across. It's supposed to be 0.1 at the base. Also, it's going to be 30 degrees across from each other, so 30. And let's drag this up here. Oops. Let me drag this up really far. There we go. And then drag this up here. The height of this doesn't really matter as long as it goes beyond the boundary. I mean, you could make a constraint towards the top there, but don't have to. Okay, now go back to dimension. Click on this to this. Oops. And it didn't take what I had expected here. Let's try this. Click on that. There we go. 0.15. And that's pretty much it. Again, this doesn't really matter up here as long as it's peeking out above it. Go ahead and 3D model, extrude. You'll see the profile begin to extrude, but in this case we want to remove material. So select cut. And you want it to go in both directions, so symmetric and all. So it goes through all. And hit OK. And if you want, you could go back to view and visual style. You might want to go back to shaded with edges. And there is our bolt. And go ahead and save that as L2 for lab 2. Let's take a look at the book here. What do we have afterwards? Okay, now we have quiz 1. All right, we'll go ahead and run through that one too in here. So quiz 1, it's just this little three-dimensional picture. The dimensions aren't the easiest thing to read off of it. But basically, you're going to make a 6x3 brick. You're going to put some holes in it, a couple fillets, chamfer, put a post on it on top, in the middle, has to be centered, and then a cut-through hole all the way. So let's go ahead and see how that's built. So go to New, Standardized Part. In this case, I would recommend the XZ plane because that's like the top, and we can start a sketch on there. And for the rectangle tools, now I don't know if we've really used this yet. I don't think we have. Is the 2-point center. This works really well for this application because it's a symmetric part. Use the center rectangle, and again, it's going to be 6 by 3. If you miss putting those in, remember you could go to dimension and add them yourself. Now you could put the circles in here for the holes. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw one here. Now be very careful. Don't connect it. I have a lot of students connected to that tangent. Bad, bad, bad. Don't. Stay away from there. Okay. In this case, it needs to be 0.5 in diameter. End of story. Go back to line, and instead of using construction, just so you can see, let's use center line. That both do the same thing. Draw a vertical center line here. Okay, and draw a horizontal center line because we need to mirror it across both sides. Now we could go to mirror, select the circle, click on mirror line, and we'll go vertical first, just for the heck of it. Hit apply. And now let's go ahead and select both those circles, click on mirror line, select the horizontal line, apply, and done. Okay, so they're all the same size. We just need to mention one's location because it maintains a relationship of symmetric between those center lines. Do not delete the center lines ever. If you delete the center lines, you delete those features, those holes that you just drew. So be very careful of that. Okay, select the center point again, up here, 0.75. And hit escape. Maybe lay your dimensions out a little nicer so you can see them. Okay, now we could go ahead and hit finish sketch. And we'll go to extrude. And let's go to the home button up here. That gives us a nice profile. And go ahead and select somewhere in here where you have the different color transition. Okay, and this needs to be 1 inch thick, so that's good. Went up to 1 inch, hit OK. Now go to the question is, do you want to fill it or do you want to chamfer first? You could add these later or now. Might as well do it now to get the easy stuff out of the way. Might not be the most efficient, but I would recommend going with the fillet first because chamfers make sharp edges, no tangency, no extent around, so it won't rubber band around if you do it any other way. So 0.25 for the radius. Select the 4 edges. Hit OK. Notice I didn't put the big hole in the center. Don't put too much in at one time. It's just easier this way. Okay, now you could go to chamfer, and the chamfer is 0.125, and it's just around this edge. And notice that because the chamfer is put on after the fillet, it wraps around, it rubber bands around. If you did not have, if you had sharp edges, it would just put the one in here. You'd have to select all 4 edges. Then when you went back and filleted, you'd have some bizarre looking corners that would show up. They'd be sharp, and that's not usually the design intent. You usually want to stay away from that. Okay, select this face now, and you could click on Create Sketch. Draw the next diameter, which is 2.25, and go to 3D Model and extrude that. This is 0.75 for the height. Let me just verify that. It's kind of hard to see here, but yeah, there's 0.75. Okay, and now go to the fillet tool, and 0.25 radius goes right in there. Okay, last but not least, the hole. Select this face on the top, start your sketch, draw a circle at the center, 1.25, and go to 3D Model, extrude, select the inner bullseye there. Okay, now we wanted to cut the material, so select cut here, but don't forget, it's not going to go all the way through by default. You have to go to all instead of distance. Hit OK. And there it is. And that concludes exercise 2.